Hey guys, another video here on something we call the zero product property. And if you watched the last video on this, you kind of have a little bit of an idea of how it works. Basically, here's the property. If two things are being multiplied and the answer is zero, then you know that one of those things at least has to be zero. Maybe both of them could be equal to zero. And the reason we kind of go over this is because it really helps us out when we're solving some of these big quadratic problems. So in this video, we're going to practice some more of these big quadratics. Here's a great example. Example 1. 2x squared plus 5x minus 3 equals 0. I want to solve. I want to know what's the answer for x. But to solve it, if I move the 3 over, I'm going to be really stuck right away with this x squared and this x. And I'm not really going to know what to do. So instead, I'm thinking in my head, why don't I use that zero product property? Why don't I factor this problem into two parentheses that are equal to 0? It's going to make things so much easier. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to go down below, and I like to factor using the rectangle diamond. So I'm going to do that pretty quickly here. I'm going to fill in my rectangle diamond with my parts that are important. So 2x squared and the minus 3. If I multiply that together, 2 times negative 3 is negative 6x squared. I know I have a 5x, so I'm going to put that here. And then I'm finding two things that multiply to 6 and add to 5. I can really only think of two things, 1 times 6 and 2 times 3. But I need a positive 5 and a negative 6 with x's. So to do that, I'm thinking, okay, how about a negative 1 times 6? That'd be 6x and negative 1x. 6 take away 1 is 5. And 6 times negative 1 is negative 6. So I can fill in 6x and negative 1x, and I can solve my rectangle. Here's what I'm going to do for the rectangle. X times x is x squared, but I need a 2x squared. So I'm going to put a 2 here to make that work. I'm going to copy the 2x to the bottom. I'm going to take the 2x and times it by 3, because 3 times 2 is 6. And then I'm going to copy the 3 over to this side. And I'm going to multiply that by negative 1, because negative 1 times 3 is a negative 3. And I've now got my two parentheses, my length times my width. It's x plus 3, and it's 2x minus 1. Now, according to that zero product property, if these two things multiplied together give me 0, then either the x plus 3 has got to equal 0, or the 2x minus 1 has got to equal 0. And honestly, both of those are really small, easy equations for me. I will take the 3 to the other side and get x equals negative 3. There's one answer. I will take the 1 and I will add it to the other side. I'll get 2x equals 1. And then I guess I'm going to divide by 2 from both sides. And I'm going to get x is equal to 1/2. And there's my second answer. So I have negative 3 and I have positive 1/2. Those are my answers for x. I found my solutions. Now, if I'm not sure, watch what I can do to take this up a notch. I'm going to cover some of this up. If I think those are my answers, but I'm not 100% sure, check it. Do a quick check. Here's what I'm going to do for my check. I'm going to do it twice. I'm going to double check this problem. I'm going to be checking, is that x equal to negative 3 really an answer? And is that x equals 1/2 really an answer? But when I check it, I'm going to be checking it on the original equation, this thing, the 2x squared plus 5x minus 3 equals 0. That's what I'm going to check it on. So I'm going to do that same thing here, 2x squared plus 5x minus 3 equals 0. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace the x's, so like this and this, with my solution. In this case, negative 3. And in this case over here, I'll be replacing it with 1/2. Or 0.5. If you prefer decimals, you can make it 0.5. And then I'm going to go through and just see if they work. So let's see, 2x squared. Let's kind of work with that. That means I would have 2 times negative 3 squared plus 5 times negative 3 minus 3 equals 0. Let's see if that's actually true. Negative 3 squared means negative 3 times a negative 3. So let's see, that would be a positive 9. And then I'm going to times it by 2, and I'm going to add it to 5 times negative 3 minus 3, and it better all equal 0. Well, 2 times 9 is 18, and 5 times negative 3 is a negative 15. So I have 18 plus negative 15 minus 3 equals 0, and I'm feeling pretty good about this now. 18 take away 15 is just 3, and then I have a minus 3, and 3 minus 3 is 0. Yeah, all right, check. I know the first answer is correct, so I feel good about my math there. We have one answer for x, and that is x is equal to negative 3. Now let's see if the 1/2 works and make sure they both work. So again, we're going to take the 1/2 and we're going to square it. So it'll be 2x squared plus 5 times a half minus 3 equals 0. And then it's up to you. Change it to a decimal if that makes you more comfortable, or leave it as a fraction. 1/2 squared means 1/2 times 1/2. So that would simplify down to 1/4 when you think about it. And we're timesing it by 2, and then we're going to add it to 5 times a half. Well, that would be 5 halves. And then we're going to minus 3 equals 0. 2 times a fourth is 2/4. So we have 2/4 plus 5 halves minus 3 equals 0. Again, if you don't know fractions very well, go to decimals, but you should know that you need a common denominator here. So I'm going to times this by 2 on top and bottom to make this one turn into 5 times 2 is 10/4, and this is 2/4. I want that common denominator. We're going to add that together, and then we're going to take away 3 and see if it's equal to 0. So what's 2 plus 10? Well, 2 plus 10 is 12, so I have 12/4 minus 3 equals 0. Okay, we're almost there. 12/4. Well, 12 divided by 4 is 3. Fractions mean divide. 3 take away 3 is 0. Yes, 0 equals 0. Check. We did it right. Took a little bit of extra work, but we figured it out. So our second solution that we got up here, that x equals 1/2, that was right. We have 2 answers for x on this problem. Okay, so I'm going to show you a special case now, because remember when we were factoring, we learned a lot of special cases exist. Here is a special case. Example 2. 2x squared minus 2x equals 0. It's a special case because in standard form, we usually have quadratics written as ax squared plus bx plus c. In this case, I see the a, I see the b, I don't see the c. The c is missing. The c is going to be 0. And I could rewrite it with that, but remember how we learned how to pull things out of the problem and find those greatest common factors. What do these two things have in common? Well, they both have a 2, so I could divide 2 out, and they both have an x, so I could divide x out. Now watch what happens when I divide 2x out. 2x goes to the front, and then think about it. 2 divided by 2 is 1. X squared, take away an x, is just x. 2 divided by 2 is 1, so we have minus 1. And x over x is a power of 1, so all this is 1, and we're left with that. That's what we're stuck with. So we have 2x, parenthesis, x minus 1 equals 0. Hey, it's already factored. The x squared is gone. We don't even need the rectangle diamond. If it helps you, you can think of it like this. But we have two things being multiplied that equal 0. We're ready to split it up. Either the 2x has to equal 0, or the x minus 1 has to equal 0. Those are the only two choices. So solve each of these. Wow, this is going to be fast. Divide by 2, divide by 2. X is going to equal 0 divided by 2, which is 0. There's one answer. Or add the 1 over. X is going to equal 1. There you go. There's our answers, 0 and 1. I'm going to ask you to pause the video and see if you can check your answers on your own. Can you run the next step of checking to see if these are actually right? So go ahead and try. And now, hopefully you're unpausing the video. Now I'm going to show you how to do the check. So for the check for each of these, I'm going to be doing 2 of them. You're going to check the original equation, the 2x squared minus 2x equals 0. I'm going to check that twice. 2x squared minus 2x equals 0. cool thing about this one is the numbers are simpler than the last example. We don't have any fractions or decimals to deal with. We have 0 and we have 1. So in this one, I get to put in zeros. And in this one, I get to put in 1. Oops, there's my 1. And if they work, then awesome. We'll know we're right. So let's see. 2 times 0 squared minus 2 times 0 equals 0. Yeah, this is 0. This is 0. Equals 0. Check. We feel pretty good about that one. On this one, we have 2 times 1 squared minus 2 times 1 equals 0. Well, yeah, 1 squared, 1 times 1 is 1. So 2 times 1 is 2. And 2 times 1 is 2. And 2 take away 2 is equal to 0. This is 0 equals 0. Check. So we definitely verified. These look correct now. We've got our check to prove it. And hopefully that's what your check looked like when you unpause the video. All right, so big idea, zero product property. Two things, you factor them, set them equal to 0, and you split it up and you solve. And there are some weird special cases you got to look out for. But for the most part, it's a lot of rectangle diamond problems. And we will continue to work in class more on this. All right, thanks guys, bye.